Entitled parents bring their 5 or 6-year-old daughter to see the Joker. Because we live in a society. Yes, you saw that correctly. They took their 5 to 6-year-old daughter to see an R-rated movie with blood and violence. But ignoring that for now, let's just get this story over with. I walk into the theater with my boyfriend, and immediately I can hear this kid being as loud as physically possible. Okay, whatever. As long as she isn't making noise during the movie, I don't give a shit. Movie starts. All is fine for about 2 minutes, until this kid is talking. Loudly. Everybody ignored it for a while, deciding to just try and focus on the movie. And it worked. For a little bit at least. I look over, about an hour into the movie, and this goddamn kid has scared the crap out of me. She's standing there right beside me, waving her finger in my face and making noise. What the frick? Who let the kid wander around in a theater? The kid's parents refused to get her, but I eventually was left alone again, as the dad begrudgingly got up and yelled at her to come back. Once again, this kid is being as loud as can be. Finally, someone has had enough. You can hear a royally pissed off guy sitting somewhere behind us shout, "Seriously? This whole bloody movie? Get that kid out of here!" They didn't leave. Refused to, actually. But I guess they realized that nobody in that theater was on their side, and they made their daughter shut the hell up. I know I should have said something, but I didn't want to be that jerk who disturbs a movie, especially considering I wanted to watch it. Funnily enough, I saw them out in the parking lot afterwards, and they were talking on the phone and completely ignoring the kid. Honestly, I feel bad for her, having to be raised by such airhead parents. Our next story was posted by user CallUsMeg, titled, "Entitled Mother Accuses Me of Teaching Her Daughter Gang Signs." This story took place in another language, and thus it is translated. Phrases might differ from what was spoken, but the meaning is the same. Sorry for weird formatting, I'm on mobile and don't know how to change it. Our cast are Entitled Mother / my 5th grade teacher, me, Majestic Elephant, Mem, my entitled mother, and Daughter, the daughter of the original entitled mother. On to the story. When I was in 5th grade, I had an entitled teacher, Madam Lola. She was stuck up, had the haircut, and always wore bright red lipstick that somehow got stuck in her teeth. She was in her early 40s. She was in my home language teacher. She was very strict and yelled at you when you did something wrong, in her eyes of course, even though we were just curious 11-year-olds. She had a daughter named May in the same class, and due to the surname seat arrangements, the two of us ended up sitting next to each other. Madam Lola, however, treated her daughter like a princess, always saying, "If only the rest of you were as disciplined as May." Anyway, when I turned 11, my uncle was in an accident, and he ended up going deaf. My mother thought that it was best if I started learning sign language with the rest of the family. After a few lessons, I had the alphabet memorized. I was so excited to show my friends at school. While in Madam Lola's class, I ran up to May and began teaching her how to spell her name in American Sign Language, and basics such as hello, goodbye, and thank you. I wasn't aware Madam Lola had kept a close eye on us until a hand slammed down on my desk. "What do you think you're doing?" she demanded, narrowing her beady eyes. I was absolutely confused. I stared up at her, and the absolutely raging aura she emitted scared the socks off of me. "Madam, no, I was just teaching your daughter some sign. I didn't think that..." The word sign threw her off. Apparently, she didn't know that people used it as a shortened word for sign language. "Sign?" she spluttered. "No, you will not be teaching my daughter those revolting gang signs. She doesn't need you to influence her like that. She doesn't need to be part of your gangery." I was a rough-looking kid with short hair and scratches on my face from playing outside and climbing trees. All her screaming and crap led to me crying. She told me to move to the other side of the room and to never talk to her daughter again because she's too good for people like me. I went home that afternoon and told my mother everything. Some of you may already know, but my mother is an entitled parent also. And boy, was she furious to know her child had been called a gangster by their teacher. She scheduled a meeting with my teacher, dragged me along with her, and just destroyed Madame Lola. She called her stupid and ignorant for not knowing I meant sign language, and that she thought I, an 11-year-old who comes from a decent family, would do anything like that. In the end, my mother went to the principal, and Madame Lola had to write a formal letter of apology. She could never properly look at me in the eye again after that incident. And our next story was posted by user Old Candy YTB, titled, Entitled Mum Tried to Drown Me After I Saved Her Daughter from Drowning. So, a little background. I live in a pretty big town, and it has a pool complex, which means a toddler pool, 65 centimeters deep or 26 inches, a medium pool, 130 centimeters deep or 4 foot 10, and an adult pool, 230 centimeters or 7 foot 6. And if you want to enter the adult pool, you need to know how to swim. So, to the story. I was in the adult pool because it was cleaner than the medium pool, and I am also a decent swimmer. A 6-year-old girl who had water wings jumped in the water. She swam for like 2 minutes, and her water wings fell off and she started to drown. I rushed to her, took her by the arm, and helped her to get out of the water. When we got out, I asked her why did she jump into the adult pool. She said that her mother let her and she was crying a little. I just go to the bar from the pool complex and buy her an ice cream. She started to feel a little better, and I asked her where her mummy was. The little girl took me to her mother, who was a fucking land whale, and I asked her. But before we get to that, let's introduce the cast of this story. OP is me, PG is poor girl, EM the entitled land whale, and LG the lifeguard. I say to her, "Excuse me," and she looks at me with a very annoyed look. "What?" "I saved your daughter from drowning. Why did you let her in the adult pool when she doesn't know how to swim?"
"She has water wings, so I don't see what your problem here."
"Her water wings fell off and she started to drown."
"So?"
This is where the lifeguard jumped in. "Your kid was in danger, and this boy, I'm 16 but okay, saved her from drowning. He got to her before I could get in the water, and if this kid can't swim, she shouldn't go in the water pool."
"That's ridiculous. I paid to be here, so my daughter can swim wherever she wants."
The sign next to the adult pool says that unsupervised children are not allowed in the adult pool.
"But you're also a child. Where are your parents?"
"I came here by myself, and I'm also 16, so I'm not a child. I'm a teenager."
"Shut up, liar."
Then she pushes me in the pool. I had scuba glasses on my head, but they weren't covering my face. I fell in the water, but since I can swim, I just go at the surface and put my scubas on. She tried to push me again, but she got calmer. Instead, she fell into the water, and I just swam away from her. She didn't drown because she was super fat, so she floated. The good thing, after that, is that the manager of the pool gave me a free summer pass for 10 pool entries and banned the entitled mother from the place. And everyone clapped. I'm gonna read this comment because it's pretty long and we'll see what they say. Sunny KL. This reminds me of an incident when I was in college. My dorm was a couple busy intersections from the main campus, and traffic was absolutely bat crap in the area, to put it mildly. I had to dive out of the road while crossing with the crosswalk multiple times for people who took a right without looking or just ran the red because they deserved to walk on Legos forever. One morning, the crosswalk flipped to walk and the lady next to me with a stroller and I start crossing. A car comes barreling around the corner when we're halfway across, and the woman leaves her stroller in the intersection and jumps back to the curb. I notice this and grab the stroller as I run forward. Miraculously, other than a skinned knee from my very awkward trip on the curb on the side, nobody was actually injured. You'd think I'd be thanked for saving this woman's child, but no. She started yelling for police like a screaming banshee, claiming I'd tried to kidnap her child. Luckily, there were bystanders waiting to cross the other way who saw everything and held her back from attacking me. She made a quite impressive run across the intersection and lunged at me. I left the kid in stroller with a nice parent who had her own stroller and stopped to ask if I was okay. The nice parent was fine with it and letting me escape, so I booked it to class before the dude holding her released the kraken and she tried to attack again. I spent the whole day terrified the campus police were going to show up to interview me in one of my classes, but nothing ever happened. I tried to write it off as the adrenaline and fear causing her to be crazy, but after seeing stories like this, I really wonder. No good deed goes unpunished. That's true. Some people are just crazy, and you can't do much about it. Our next story was posted by user Nerdy by Nature, titled, "It's okay if I go directly against your rules. I'm getting an abortion." What? I live by a trampoline park that's pretty popular amongst the kids in the city that I live in. My birthday was yesterday, and my grandma found some coupons for us to go for 90 minutes. The only thing I like to do at the trampoline park is play dodgeball on the trampolines, so I ran into the line. Once the gene finished, I'm gonna guess the session finished, the line started moving forward, but we stopped again. I looked into the court, the place where the trampolines are and you play the game, I say court for lack of a better term, and see there are only 2 people in there. The limit is 16 though. I look to the front and instantly see the problem. There was a thin, noticeably pregnant woman with big earrings pointing her long fake nails at the referee and shouting, "Ma'am, we can't let pregnant women in the trampolines. It's a big sign right there." He motioned towards the sign that had "Warning" written in big letters, highlighted in red, that said people with high blood pressure, heart issues, and expecting mothers were not allowed on the trampolines. "I don't care what the sign says. I have an appointment to get an abortion, so it doesn't matter." I don't know how abortions work, but I don't think you make appointments. "So, if you don't mind, I'm going to play with my kids." She attempts to barge past the guy, but fails since he's almost twice her size. The woman is getting noticeably angrier now, but this guy is a champ. He just stays there unfazed by her attempts, and tells her he's going to call security if she doesn't leave. The way the trampolines are set up is that a line is on the ground, and you take these stairs to a foam platform that leads to a court thing. The lady said okay and walked down, pulling her confused kid along with her. She made it down the steps and stopped. She let go of her kid's hand and pivoted around, then bolted up the stairs. The man stepped to the side, and she hit the chain that was over the entrance with her legs. She flipped over it and landed on her back. I bursted out laughing. I was gripping my sides and wiping tears from my eyes. I almost bursted a blood vessel trying to hold it in, but it wasn't worth it. The lady shot up and stared at me. I would have been intimidated if she hadn't just made such a fool of herself. She stood up, red in the face, and stomped away. She reached the exit and stopped. She had forgotten her child. She yelled at him to come to her, and he ran to his insane mother. Before leaving, she turned around, flipped us all off and says, "This isn't over. I'll sue the whole place for emotional abuse and harm of my unborn child. Expect to see a lawsuit in your near future." All I could think of was, "It harmed itself in confusion," the Pokemon meme, when she threatened to sue us for the fetus that she was going to abort anyway. That's the story of the entitled mother who thought she could bend the rules because she wasn't keeping what was preventing her from the attraction. Apparently, you do in fact have to make an appointment. Well, I've learned something today. Our next story was posted by user How Small Are We, titled Confidence Destroyer. So, I work at the service desk of a large, well-known big box hardware/lumber store. On this day, I looked up to see an entitled mother with 4 high school-aged girls, all on their phones looking pretty disinterested. They walk up to my register and ask for a store manager. We are asked to field these types of questions to see if it's just something we can take care of ourselves and to not bother the actual mods. I say, "Sure, I can do that. What is this regarding?" The mum slightly elbows one of the girls forward, who hands me a letter which is a request for donations for the high school, which we get about 3 times a day. I immediately say, "Oh, Dan is our manager who handles donation requests." He's not here today, but I would be happy to deliver this to him when he arrives and have him call you. This response normally gets a thank you, and then the person leaves, but not this group. The entitled mother side-eyes me and goes,
"Oh, I see. So you're saying we can't see a manager?"
"Oh, don't say that to Karen." "Oh, of course you can. I'd be happy to call a manager, but all donation requests go to Dan. Would you like me to call another manager to speak with you?"
"To speak to me? Me?"
As she points to the girls. I can see she's working herself up to make a scene. I pick up the phone to call a manager to get myself out of this. The phone's busy. So, as I'm holding the receiver to my ear, the mother leans in, screeching,
"I am trying to teach my daughter how to stand up for herself while she is requesting donations. Do you understand that? I am empowering my daughter to deal with confidence destroyers like you."
Now, her daughter to this point has not said a word to me. The mother was the one speaking and in charge of this little interaction. Those girls could have cared less about speaking to a manager. As a matter of fact, the girl is just standing there, and now her blank stare has changed to complete embarrassment at the mother, and her eyes start to fill with water. I have been nothing but kind and by the book, so this insta rage was pretty shocking.
"And now my daughter is crying. How dare you? Yes, you can have Dan call me."
And they charge out the door. One of the girls makes eye contact with me, and you could tell she was mortified. I can only imagine how many times the poor girl has witnessed these types of things from her mother. I am sure the mother believes being a pissed off person will get her what she wants, and in fact, she's teaching her daughter and her friends to be abusive bullies who believe everyone's
"Out to get them, so you have to get them first."
The next day, I handed our manager the donation request without saying a word. Well, that was a pretty rough one, wasn't it? And our last story was posted by user Darrow Gasserick, titled, "So, what did you tell her?" I would like to start this post off with some background. My mother groomed my brothers and I to cater to her. We were her 3 little butlers. Yep, I've been in that situation when I was about 5 to 10 years old. She also refused to teach my brothers any form of life skills, so they would stay dependent on her. Seriously, each of them didn't even get a job till their 30s when they met their current spouses. Well, that was almost the same with me. I, on the other hand, was on the opposite spectrum. I was told to get a job at 16, and the moment I started making money, I had to pay my mother's bills. Started off small, but once I landed a good job, it got bad. Talking groceries, her car payment, insurance, rent, PGE, etc. When I landed that good job, my mum quit hers and told me she had taken care of me my whole life, and it was time I took care of her. This went from ages 18 to 21. I lived with my mother and couldn't save money to move out because all the household bills were overwhelming. I was breaking even. My now husband helped me move. I was full of guilt, and my mum tried everything she could to make me stay. From saying he would start beating me and she wouldn't be there to protect me, to telling me I had to pay 3 months of rent in advance if I was moving. To say she was going to lose her home, car, etc. Not gonna lie, moving was rough. It was one long guilt trip. My mother immediately found a guy to move in and pay her stuff. She never got a job, unless you count when she's trying to push Mary Kay. Well, this is a little over 2 years later. Her house is infested with black mold. I got a text the other day saying her house is going to be remodeled, and she needs a place for her and the dogs to stay until the house is livable. I was telling this to my husband, and he got a scared look on his face. So what did you tell her? I said I told her, "Damn, sounds like the landlord is going to have to pay to rent a pet-friendly hotel until it's fixed." She made the comment she wanted to be in an actual home, not a hotel, and I told her there isn't room at our house if that's what she's hinting at, and I have not heard a word more about it. My husband smiled and he was really proud of me. Turns out she's getting evicted because she hasn't paid rent in over 6 months. I learned this today. I was taking my daughter to the park, and it's right next to my mother's house. I was going to see if she wanted to play with us, and there was a pay or get out notice on her door. She was trying to weasel her way into our house. I'm just so grateful for my husband for helping me break that cycle of catering to my mother's crappy behavior. I just wanted to post this because I felt really good after being able to tell my mother no, and then realizing I would have been fucked if I had buckled and said yes to her. It also might help people who are in my position now. It's not your duty to take care of your parents if they are perfectly capable of taking care of themselves. Truer words were never said. Anyway guys, if you liked that, tell me what you thought of it in the description below. I'll be sure to get back to you on it, reply to as many comments as I can, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.